Shavua Tov Rabotai, we're continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Yoma. We're up to Perek Hey Mishnah Bet. Today's Mishnayot should be Leilun Nishmat, Neria ben Svetlana, Aranbayev, and Eliyahu ben Burchai Israelov, Menuchatam Began Eden, Amen. The Mishnah discusses the place where the Kohen Gadol put down the shovel of coals and burned the Ktoret. The Mishnah begins, Mishenital Ha'aron, after the ark was taken by Nebuzaradan, the Babylonian general who destroyed the first temple. Even Aita Sham Mimot Neviim Rishonim. All that was left there was a stone which had been discovered before the temple was built in the days of the early prophets, David and Shmuel. Now the Shtiyah stone was embedded in the ground beneath the ark. The first and second temples were built over and around the stone, and the ark was placed on top of it. It was called Shetiyah, which means foundation, because it was the foundation of the world. God created the Shetiyah stone and then attached clods of earth to it from every side until the world was formed. As the commentaries explain, it protruded 3 finger breadths above the ground, stuck out 3 finger breadths above the ground, and upon it the Kohen Gadol placed a shovel of coals and burned the Ktoret. The previous Mishnah stated that the Ktoret was burned in front of the ark between the 2 poles. It seems therefore that part of the Shtiyah stone extended in front of the ark, and it was on this part that the Kohen Gadol burned the Ktoret. And that is the end of Mishnah Bet. Mishnah Gimel continues, in the meantime, while the Kohen Gadol was involved with the Ktoret, a Kohen was standing in the courtyard and stirring the blood of the bull so that it would not congeal, as we learned in chapter 4, Mishnah 3. After the Kohen Gadol finished the service of Ktoret and recited his prayer that we mentioned in Mishnah 1, he left the sanctuary and resumed the service of the bull. And the Mishnah begins, Natal et adam mimi shaya memares bo. He took the blood of the bull from the one who was stirring it and returned to the sanctuary. Nichnas lamakom shenichnas v'amad b'makom she'amad. He entered the place he had entered before, the Holy of Holies, and he stood in the place that he had stood before between the 2 poles of the ark. V'izam mimenu ahad lemala v'sheva lemata. He sprinkled some of the blood once upward and 7 times downward in the direction of the ark cover. Now he dipped his right forefinger into the blood and cast the blood in the required direction. For the 1 upward sprinkling, his palm faced up, and for the 7 downward sprinklings, his palm faced down, as the Gemara says on page 55a. Each sprinkling needed a separate dipping of the finger into the blood, as the Tosefta writes in chapter 3, Braita number 2. Now, when the Mishnah mentions in the direction of the ark cover, the kaporet, was a board of solid gold, 1 tefach thick, that rested on top of the ark, as the Torah says in Sefer Shemot, chapter 25, Psukim 17 through 21. In the first temple, when the ark was present, the Kohen Gadol aimed the sprinklings in the direction of the kaporet. In the second temple, he aimed them in the direction of the place where it used to be. However, he did not aim to sprinkle on the upper part of the ark cover or its lower part, meaning he did not throw the blood so far that it actually reached the ark cover. Instead, he cast the blood onto the floor, the first sprinkling onto a spot far from himself, and the next 7 sprinklings progressively closer to himself, like one who whips a person starting from the top of his back and working progressively downward. Now, although the Torah states in Sefer Vayikra, chapter 16, pasuk 14, he shall take of the bull's blood and he shall sprinkle with his forefinger upon the surface of the ark cover, and he shall sprinkle 7 times in front of the ark cover. This does not mean that the blood must actually reach any part of the ark cover. Rather, the words upon the surface of the ark cover teach that he must sprinkle once upward, and the words 7 times in front of the ark cover teach that he must sprinkle 7 times downward. Now, in the upward sprinkling, the Kohen Gadol tossed the blood onto a part of the floor that was relatively far from where he was standing. In the first of the 7 downward sprinklings, he made the blood land nearer to himself, and in the second of the 7 downward sprinklings, he made the blood fall even nearer, and so on. He continued in this way until he created a line of 8 patches of blood between the ark and himself. And the Mishnah compares this to an official of the court who administers lashes. He begins by striking the top of the back between the shoulders, then he strikes somewhat lower, and so on. And he would count the sprinklings as follows. Ahat. When he made the 1 upward sprinkling, he said 1. Ahat v'achat. אחת ושתיים, אחת ושלוש, אחת וארבע, אחת וחמש, אחת ושש, אחת ושבע. And when he made the 7 downward sprinklings, he said 1 and 1, 1 and 2, 1 and 3, 1 and 4, 1 and 5, 1 and 6, 1 and 7. Now in counting each of the 7 downward sprinklings, he said 1 before the appropriate number. Now this was done for the following reason. The Kohen Gadol was not supposed to count all 8 sprinklings together, 1 through 8. Rather, after counting the 1 upward sprinkling, he started a new count for the 7 downward sprinklings, 1 through 7. This could lead to confusion, however. After counting the first upward sprinkling as 1, he might mistakenly count the first downward sprinkling as 2, the second as 3, and so on until he counts the 6th as 7. He might therefore leave out the last downward sprinkling. So to avoid this, he said 1, referring to the single upward sprinkling before each time he counted a downward sprinkling, in order to remind himself that he had to do 7 sprinklings besides the 1 upward sprinkling. After he completed the sprinklings, he went out of the Holy of Holies and put the vessel that contained the blood upon a golden stand in the sanctuary. And that is in Rabotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Everybody should have a Shavua Tov. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen v'amen.